Oftentimes in trainings or on coaching calls, clients ask about the distinction between caregiving and caretaking. Caregiving is when you're giving care to someone who can't do something for themselves. Obviously, as a parent, you're giving care to your children at different ages. They can't feed themselves, or they're learning to walk, or they're learning to cross the street. There are very specific ways that we give care to people who can't do certain things for themselves. Sometimes that bleeds over into what we call caretaking. Caretaking is a very different thing. The etymology of this word caretaking originated with the person taking care of an owner's property when the owner was absent. So there's an underlying assumption when we end up caretaking someone that that person is really absent from their life in some way. Another word for caretaking could be enabling. It's easy to conflate these terms, caregiving and caretaking, and oftentimes in the culture, people use them interchangeably. What I'm talking about here is not the actual professions that are caregiving professions, like a nurse, someone that works in a care facility. I'm talking about a mindset or a belief system, an attitude of heart that leads us to do things for other people that they could actually do for themselves. Think about the words themselves. One is caregiving. You're actually giving care to someone. The other is caretaking. You're taking something from the other person. Because it is a form of care, honestly, to let people live their lives and experience the depth and the gravity of their own choices. Now, it's easy to slip from one to the other. So how do we tease them apart? How do we know if what we're doing, if the way that we're engaging or intervening in someone's life is caregiving, or if we're inadvertently caretaking? I was working with a client the other day, really a compassionate person, and they don't like to see anyone struggle, anyone have a hard time. I get that, that's fair. And what happens in their organization is they end up rushing in, jumping in for an employee who's learning a skill. And instead of letting them fail at the thing that they're learning so that they can re-up and go again, they jump in and fix it over and over and over again. That's problematic in a lot of ways. It's caretaking the employee so they're not getting stronger. It's also sending a message to them that they're probably not up for it. That don't worry, because here in this organization, I really take care of everything as the boss, and I don't expect that much from the people that are here. It thwarts the growth that's possible. And when people don't feel challenged in their jobs, if they don't feel like, hey, I'm growing or I'm learning something, it is one of those things that contributes to quiet quitting. A great thing to ask yourself is this person becoming stronger or weaker because of my intervention? Are they becoming more able or less able because of the way I'm interacting with them? Oftentimes in caretaking, we're operating out of a subtle or silent judgment about the person. Like they can't handle this, they're not up for it, they can't do it on their own. And maybe we've never tested that out. Maybe we don't actually know if that's true. So instead of paying attention, asking a question, checking in with the person, it's easy to start operating out of our judgments, out of our assessments about the person, and then rushing in to decide what they can handle and what they can't handle. Sometimes it's a way to just avoid suffering, mostly our suffering, because we're there and most of us don't enjoy watching other people suffer. And so in order to prevent it, we rush in and say, oh, no, they shouldn't have to deal with this. They shouldn't have to experience this. And in some ways, we rob them of the consequences to their own choices, which is another way to say, I'm robbing someone of their ability to grow, of their ability to learn on their own. Now, there's a lot of reasons that we end up caretaking. Sometimes, as I mentioned, it's because we don't like the suffering. We don't like to feel the suffering, and we don't want to see other people suffer. Other times when we end up caretaking, it's out of a judgment I have about other people, but also a judgment I have about myself. being better, more capable, more competent than the other person. And so I just go in to fix things that they can't seem to handle, that they can't fix, or that they're gonna mess up for themselves. Sometimes when we get into like a savior complex, a hero complex, we rush in and do things for people when they haven't even asked. We allow our egos to get in the way of someone else's growth and their maturity. So notice in your relationships at home or at work, if you imagine that you're helping someone, that you're giving care, when in reality, you might be caretaking, you might be undermining their own growth and their own experience of life. If this was helpful for you, check out the enabling versus empathy video. Link is here. Like, subscribe, ring that bell, make a comment. I would love to hear from you. Set up a vision call. Let's explore for you what gets in your way when you're navigating this tension between caregiving and caretaking.